Hello, I am the many-talented Mr. Jefferson, and I am here appropriately enough to talk about an experiment I conducted. You see, I found myself someone who seemed bright but uncultured, who had talent but lacked experience. He streams over on Twitch and he watches my streams and videos, and while talking to him, I found out he knew very little at all about pop culture like TV shows and movies, and he also had a lack of higher education as he had not really been exposed to the concepts that would allow him to grasp things like the bizarre physical laws presented in quantum mechanics. And I decided to start running an experiment to see what would happen when this young man was exposed to various different stimuli. And one of the first tests I ran was to see if he could grasp some of those fundamental principles of physics and quantum physics, but if it was presented to him in a appealing way. And I had found just the right game for this experiment. It's called Genesis Noir, and that experiment was a success. Genesis Noir is a beautifully stylized game that also just happens to be a primer on the fundamental principles of physics, life, death, philosophy, and a whole host of other concepts, all wrapped up in a really pretty game fueled by some amazing jazz music. He liked the game enough that he went back and played it a second time, and not just to see Miss Mass and her fantastic ass.
There she is! Fuck existence, this game is about hitting them sheep. Bro! Time lost in the fucking sauce, bro.
During the time that I have known him, Cuddly has been exposed to many classic movies and new video games like Dead by Daylight, and since he liked that game so much, I wanted to see how he would react to the Dead by Daylight pinball table. I had a suspicion that he might actually be good at pinball because I had seen his amazing reflexes on the Guitar Hero clone, very accurately called Clone Hero, and he's also pretty decent at Fortnite.
You may have heard we're going to phase out human testing. There's still a few things left to wrap up, though.
Cuddly had never played pinball as far as I was aware, but he accepted the table because it was a familiar theme, and he very quickly managed to beat my high score on that table, even before learning the basics of pinball techniques or how the tables and lanes and sinkholes functioned. I had begun producing pinball reviews explaining some of those basic pinball game concepts I had learned, along with the explanation of how the table I was reviewing functioned. And as he watched those, he learned. One of the video games he played for the first time during this period was Portal, and he frickin' loved the original and Portal 2, and another streamer I know had gifted him some table over on Pinball FX3, and that's because Fantavision is a frickin' dinosaur and he had not adopted Pinball FX yet. Funny story, he finally broke down and bought 15 tables. You know how much it cost him? $20. I think he bought him one of the Marvel tables, which isn't really something I think Cuddly has too much experience with. And I decided to give him a table I thought might be more to his liking, so I gifted him the Portal table. That's one I thought he was very likely to play, and I was not wrong. Again, he immediately managed to beat my high score, just like with the Dead by Daylight table, but since Portal wasn't a table I played very often, I was able to run up and beat his score pretty easily again, since I had been practicing on the other tables for the reviews. And I did so very quietly, so he could find out on his own and get like all sad and shit. Do you know what happened next? That little shit played a 2-hour game, racking up 1.8 billion points, which was roughly 24 times my high score at the time. And it's about 18 times my current score. I'm under no illusions that I am going to beat this one anytime soon, because he didn't just beat me by a shit ton. That score hit 245 on the leaderboards, and while I have hit the top 100 on some other tables, none of them have been out anywhere near as long as Portal, so the leaderboards aren't really as competitive yet. It is not as much of an achievement. Now, this doesn't mean I'm not going to try to beat a score, because Portal is a really fun table to play, and I really want to try to hit that wizard mode on this table, because I feel like I'm actually capable of it since I have completed 3 of the 5 modes already. I'm going to take some partial credit for Cuddly's high score, because after all, I did introduce him to the genre of pinball on his birthday in December of 2023, and I have taught him the basics of ball control and how to read the tables, and I'm also the one who bought him the frickin' table 3 days before he kicked my ass. And that really just emphasizes how monumental his score is, because I know he has only been playing pinball for maybe a little over a month, and he only owned that specific table for maybe 2 to 3 days before hitting 245th place on the leaderboards, and that's just really fucking impressive. As for reviews, I wasn't even going to touch Pinball FX3, at least not for a while. There are 120 tables on Pinball FX that I own, and more tables over on Pinball M which I can review, and they are all either newer than Pinball FX3 tables or updates of the FX3 tables. But FX3 does have a couple of tables that have not made it to FX yet, and one of those tables is the Portal table. But the table on FX3 I was actually planning on reviewing is the one based on Aliens. And that's because Blockade Pinball Podcast told me that was the best pinball table on all of Pinball FX. And since it looks like all those dudes do is talk about pinball and work on pinball machines, it seemed like the table to check out first. But between having already learned the Portal table while trading high scores with Cuddly Dragon and seeing his crazy score, that prompted me to move this Portal review table up on the schedule. I finished the script really quickly, and then I dragged my feet on recording it, but you know, I finished the script, so yay me. Fast as fast can be. The Portal table is actually based on the second game in the franchise, which is pretty awesome because that is the game that introduced a bunch of new characters like Wheatley, Atlas, and Peabody, and new concepts like the acceleration gel. GLaDOS herself is amazing, but the extra characters really bring the table to life, and Portal 2 also has a 2-player mode, which is represented in the Atlas and Peabody multi-ball mode, which has one of the happiest and most joyful pieces of music I have ever heard. I absolutely love starting this multi-ball mode because of that music, but it also has a very generous kickback timer and awards a ton of points, which is how Cuddly managed to keep his game going for about 2 hours. And this was also probably responsible for the majority of his score. Wheatley is just a fun character, and GLaDOS does what she does best by taunting and insulting the player. Shell, as always, is silent, because the only thing about Valve that is more consistent than the silent protagonists is their inability to count to 3. Now it's time to take a look at the features on this table and how they relate to the video game they are based on, and what the ramps and sinkholes actually do for you so you can start posting some high scores of your own. For the skill shot, you need to adjust your launch power to land in the portal. The portal moves around, so timing is also a factor. After going through a portal, the ball will drop from the top of the table to the upper right flipper, which you need to use to hit the ramp to get a skill shot bonus. In the middle of the table is a test chamber. Hit it once to open the doors and hit it a second time to start a mode. During most modes, you shoot the indicated lanes, usually requiring the upper right skill shot to make Shell jump across the table, and then you finish out the mode by shooting the ball back into the test chamber. One of the game modes is Ratman's Den, which is a mini table where you will have to shoot the ramps that match the sequence of shapes that appear in the upper left corner, and then hit the middle target to exit the mini table. This is very similar to the Turret Factory mini table that opens up when you hit the bumpers in the middle right of the playfield. The lower bumper raises to expose a sinkhole when Turret Factory is fully spelled out. Shoot the indicated lanes into Turret Factory to replace the template with a broken turret, and then hitting the center to exit again. Doing this 3 times will make the wizard mode easier. On either side of the test chamber are the Atlas and Peabody lanes. Lighting up Atlas or Peabody opens up a ball lock to the left of the Atlas orbit, allowing you to collect that robot. Collecting both robots will start the Atlas and Peabody multi-ball mode, and finishing the multi-ball mode awards an extra ball. Shooting the right cross ramp will open up ball lock, allowing you to collect personality cores to start the personality core multi-ball, where you can hit jackpots and super jackpots until there is only 1 ball remaining in play. There are redirection cubes on the slingshots above the flippers. Hitting the slingshot aims the cube at one of several targets, and shooting the leftmost lane will activate the laser. Lighting up Lab Rat on the targets on the right side of the table starts a hurry-up mode, which will award a random reward. Some of the prizes are kickback, ball save, instant Atlas and Peabody multi-ball, and an extra ball. There are actually 5 extra balls on this table, but each one can only be collected once per game. Lab Rat can award a ball, finishing Atlas and Peabody awards a ball, finishing the Turret Factory awards a ball. Hitting the cake target 30 times to collect all of the ingredients will also award a ball, and defeating GLaDOS in the final battle will award the final free ball. Some really cool things to note about this table: you can reverse the ball to shoot it upward with the upper left flipper. I did that a lot on the Dead by Daylight table, but I haven't practiced it on the Portal table because I usually just want to shoot the ball straight across anyway. I don't think there's very often a benefit from trying to make that trick shot, unlike the Dead by Daylight table where it was super effective. The Atlas lane leads to the upper left flipper, and the ramp across from it is the Peabody ramp, so I usually want to get the 2-for-1 because you need to light both the names Atlas and Peabody to get the multi-ball going. There are actually an absurd number of multi-ball modes on this table, and the 2 I can initiate back to back both have generous ball saves that will start when the multi-ball mode starts. The other mode that is really easy to initiate is the test number 4, Turret Training, which again comes with a very generous ball save period. While you are lighting up Atlas and Peabody and during the various multi-ball modes, you are very likely to hit the bumpers quite often, which will open up the Turret Factory sinkhole, which leads to a mini table. And the reason this is important is because you can't lose your ball if you hit the drain on a mini table. This has allowed me to develop a very effective scoring strategy by aiming for the Atlas ramp and comboing onto the Peabody ramp. If I miss the Atlas or Peabody ramps, it's very likely that I'm going to hit the test chamber instead. So missed shots usually lead to me being able to initiate a different multi-ball mode than the one I was trying to. Both multi-balls have a very generous ball save, and they both award millions of points even if you don't complete them, and they will usually help you rack up those bumper hits too. When the ball save is finally over and you get in an unfortunate drain, the multi-ball mode will end, but you still have the other ball, and you should only be a couple of shots away from starting another multi-ball mode. This is basically how Cuddly managed to last 2 hours on a single game. He kind of did it on accident, and after talking to him about his high score game, I have managed to replicate pretty much what he was doing on purpose, and now my current low scores are higher than my previous high scores, and I actually think I have a real chance at beating Cuddly's stupidly high score. But it's not going to be easy. The best thing about Cuddly's high score is he didn't manage to actually hit the wizard mode because he could not make one specific shot on the table, and that was from the upper left flipper to the sideways ramp, or what I call the Atlas and Peabody combo shot. And the reason he couldn't consistently make that shot was a lack of understanding of the flipper and ball physics. First off, flippers are not pressure sensitive. They are either on or off, and they move at a consistent speed. If you launch the ball off at a specific point on the flipper, it will move in a straight line on its new trajectory from the point where it loses contact with the flipper. The real problem here is accounting for the ball speed. Since the speed of the flipper is a constant, we know that the faster the ball is moving, the further along the flipper it will travel before losing contact, meaning you will need to hit the flipper earlier the faster the ball is moving for it to release from the same point to make the exact same shot if the ball was moving slower. Drawing a straight line to the flipper can indicate where on the flipper the ball needs to be shot from, and there are almost always indicators in the table artwork of where the ball needs to leave the flipper to hit the ramps, like this little guy right here. I believe Cuddly and most other new players do this on a subconscious level with the bottom flippers, but the angle of the Atlas and Peabody combo flipper makes it a lot more confusing of a shot, even though the exact same physics principles are at play. Good table design means the table will have indicators in the artwork near the flippers that allow you to line up your shots. There was that little guy in the upper left-hand corner, but there are also the 6 test chambers above the flippers that also just happen to line up pretty perfectly with the lanes above. I love this table. There are a lot of tightly packed lanes, so even if you miss a shot, you will probably hit something worthwhile. The modes are really fun, and the music and voice acting are either straight out of the game or performed by the exact same voice actors. Cuddly, who is completely new to pinball, expressed that he's shocked at how much playing this pinball table actually feels like playing Portal, which is something we also noticed on the other video game adaptation that he played, the Dead by Daylight table. Portal is basically a first-person shooter with a big focus on puzzles and driven by a very quirky sense of humor, so it's really unexpected when a totally different genre of game replicates that exact same feeling, immersing you in that other totally different gaming experience. One thing I will probably keep repeating in most of these videos is that pinball has a lot more depth than one might expect, and that had been repeated back to me by this new player I introduced to the game. And this isn't because he's just like some kind of parrot or puppet with no opinion of his own. It's because he has experienced this for himself, and he just couldn't believe how a pinball table could actually be this complex. The reason I think it's so great Cuddly got that high score without hitting the wizard mode is because, well, it's upsetting to him. I don't have to beat this high score to shine him on anymore. He has played himself.
Demand to see life's manager. Make life rue the day and thought it could give Cave Johnson lemons. Do you know who I am? I'm the man who's gonna burn your house down with the lemons.
And now he's not competing against me. He is absolutely determined to beat the wizard mode, which means he's totally hooked on pinball now. There's no going back. I introduced him to a genre of gaming that's generally looked at as something only old people play, and now he's trying to convince his friends to try it, and we're even talking about setting up some kind of a community tournament where these new players can possibly win new tables for their collection. And getting people to play pinball is theoretically a lot easier than getting them to play Garfield Kart Furious Racing. Fun fact, Garfield Kart Furious Racing is actually the best Garfield game ever made, which is really, really, really fucking sad because we use it to torture our community. I seriously don't know how we wind up getting so many people playing it. Oh right, and the accelerator is literally completely broken on Cuddly's game, which is fucking hysterical. I am the many-talented Mr. Jefferson, and I have to say, Portal Pinball is a genuine pleasure to play. I especially like the Atlas and Peabody music. It is just so unbelievably happy. I'll be back with another pinball table or a game review, and as always, I stream most nights at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. I want to thank my viewers, my subscribers, my channel members, and my donors, and an extra special thanks to those who have gone above and beyond in sponsoring my channel recently, and also those of you who shoot the ball into the thumbs up sinkhole. Until I see you next time, toodles.